wasn't sharing with your mum. I mean, I'm talking about Bruce Springclean.
I-DENTIT-IS. I am what my identity is. It's true, someone once said, if you can't be yourself,
Beyonce.
but that is completely wrong. You are unique the way you are. My name is Rafa, and this is I-DENTIT-IS. A space for those that proudly, fully embrace their identities, but also for those that are willing to do so, but are struggling to let the voices in their head, but also those belonging to human beings. Shut the hell up! Huh. Guests, identities, stories, and one hot question. How did you finally accept your identity and stopped giving a fuck about what others thought? Allow me to share with you stories that inspire. And remember, you are perfect the way you are, so please, be unique. Be yourself. Don't give a fuck. Welcome to a brand new episode of I-DENTIT-IS. Today with me, I've got an Instagram star, a Nutella addicted, but come on. I mean, how can I blame someone who loves Nutella as much as I do? And a fantastic comedian. Let me introduce you my guest for the day.
Name.
Sam Williams.
Age.
27.
What do you do in your life?
I do stand-up comedy and I walk around parks shouting at my phone, and then I upload that to Instagram and hope that people relate to whatever thought I've had. Yeah.
Right. And
how do you identify?
I identify. I in terms of I'm a bisexual person, and I use he and they pronouns. So I've never really made a concrete decision in my life.
okay, right. So, but what
Is your relation with pronouns?
I think when did I switch? I changed them. The thing, I don't need to be called they to feel like any kind of degree of validity. I think that I obviously have those pronouns in my bio on things. It's mainly there as a recognition that I feel I've felt very strongly during the pandemic that I was something I isn't necessarily kind of I guess more on the level of less on an empirical or directly visible level. I think that's the challenge of of non-binary sensations, because there's so many multitudes of that are contained within one phrase that kind of, I don't know, it's a sensation that largely escapes language. I think that kind of probably religion the right forms of faith in practice get closer to a non-gendered feeling of closeness to divinity, or trying to feel closer to a genderless divinity that I guess is what non-binary as a secular term tries to get at. But I think that without at least an attempt to embrace any kind of divine mystery, you're kind of falling short with non-binary phenomenology.
So we went from the pronouns to religion to non-binarism and the entire plethora of colors of the rainbow flag, which is fantastic. You very religious?
No, but I go to church and stuff, but it's like a non-denominational, congregationalist, low Anglican thing. That's like it's a non-proselytizing form of Christianity, and I'd say like whatever faith, wherever I would have grown up, I probably would have ended up trying to figure out where I fit in with the prevailing religious practices of where that is. I think there are.
Are you still trying to find out where you fit in with this?
Oh no, I'm a baptized Christian, but the point I'm trying to make is that when you try to come out as non-binary, or when you accept the fact that you are non-binary or that you feel that, what you're talking about is saying that you feel something that isn't visible, like can't really be scientifically proven. When we're talking about gender, we're talking about a relationship with gender that goes beyond the kind of forms that are recognized between sort of male and female, and then various degrees of that. You're talking about something that goes beyond visible, and at that point you have to contend with the fact that there are mysteries at play beyond sight, but that we can feel in our hearts. And at that point, I think that the divine mystery starts to reveal itself in intelligible ways, but in a way that may bring people, like it brought me, to trying to find the right divine or religious space in which you can kind of feel loved. But those spaces are very short in supply, really, unfortunately. And obviously the prevailing Christian practices of the world are still incredibly problematic and the root cause of a lot of contemporary evil, especially for the queer community, for any marginalised group, really.
No, I feel you. Ah, mate. Okay, so let's talk about you now. Let me give our listeners some little information about who Sam Williams is. So, Sam Williams is an award-winning comedian, writer and actor from Maidenhead. His vivid brand of confessional stand-up has been met with acclaim on the live circuit, winning the Comedia New Comedy Award in 2023.
Thank you.
Before making his TV debut on BBC Three's New Comedy Award in the same year. So, one information here got my attention from the very beginning. You're from Maidenhead.
Yes.
I mean, my most honest sympathy. Your people have been served since 1997, if I'm not mistaken, from
the year of my birth.
Theresa May.
Yeah, whole life she's been.
But you seem to have grown up quite well for someone who's from Maidenhead.
It was an incredibly. The weird thing is, it was it felt like a secular place to grow up, although a lot of the social infrastructure was still kind of, church youth clubs and that kind of thing. But there was like a kind of a religionless homophobia, I think, that was very pervasive. So, like, for example, like there's some woods on the outskirts of Maidenhead called the Thicket, which is like a massive kind of gay dogging site. I love that is right on the edge of Theresa May's constituency and is in fact within it and is frequented by, people who she represents in Parliament. But it's like sort of the Forest of Arden in Shakespeare, but on the edge of this very well-to-do, buttoned up, generally middle-class town. But that's like the punchline of every other joke that you hear it growing up in Maidenhead. And although it was like, like the ban on teaching about LGBT lifestyles in school and stuff had ended by the time I was at school, it was still a very homophobic environment. But because I think it's such a normal British town in that it is, it's completely normal and completely bizarre at the same time. I'm really grateful that I grew up somewhere like that, because it means that I go to a lot of places to do stand-up, and I feel a kindred spirit with those kinds of places. Having grown up in one of those weird suburban.
It was not that bad by the end, right?
Yeah, it was a good. It gave me I had a good childhood. So
you got a lot of material you could use during your stand-up comedy.
Yeah, and I think it shaped me. I think it really did shape me in a lot of ways that I'm very grateful for.
But also, Maidenhead gave you first same-sex crush. I mean, I'm talking about Bruce Springclean.
Yeah, the window cleaner.
So only from the name, he sounds like the man of my dreams.
Yeah,
tell me more about him.
The man of all of our dreams, I would say. Yeah.
Local? Was he from somewhere else? How was he looking like? Come on, just give us an idea. We're all fantasizing about him.
Oh, I don't know. I never really saw him other than like in a window frame. He was just very strapping with a lot of tattoos and stuff, who could just really work a window. There was a lot of artistry to it, the same way that I guess you would have had watching sort of Michelangelo paint the Sistine Chapel.
Oh gosh, this is a very great example. I love it. So, but how was it sharing with your mum? Because we also know that your mum secretly fell in love with him, right?
Yeah, no, that was fine.
And now, one of the questions I've been asking myself, when did you realise that comedy, stand-up comedy in this case, was what you wanted to do as an adult person?
I started at uni because I had a crush on a girl on my course and no one had done stand-up. I did a drama course and no one had done stand-up yet. So I was like, oh, that will impress her. And she never came, and I'm quite glad about that. But as soon as I did it, I was like, oh, this is great. And I felt immediately like it was what I wanted to keep on with. I came to it fairly late. I'd watched comedy and I loved comedy, but like I'd never really considered doing stand-up. and then got really into it like as I was starting doing it, basically, and kind of had to catch up on the education front with my brother. Although he doesn't.
Is this your full-time job now?
No, I also sell cat food. It's on its way to being that.
Well, then let's cross our fingers for you. Do you feel that comedy could also be a sort of therapy?
It adds details to the contours around your sense of self, and I think it allows you to kind of vulnerably embrace the wonders and the ailments of the human condition that everyone feels, but that you're kind of privileged to be encouraged to dig into them. So there is a therapeutic element to that,
and that makes sense, to be honest to you. So always talking about your gender identity, your history, your personal story, basically. We've learned about your first same-sex crush, and come on, mate, I'll be still dreaming about him for the rest of my life. But when did you have your first same-sex experience?
I think I was at a rugby camp or something when I was like 13. It was weird because it was exactly the same as how I'd felt when I first felt attracted to a woman, but then it was for someone who I was playing rugby with, and that was weird because it felt totally involuntary and like a completely really confusing. So I just kind of packed it away because I was like, don't want to be doing with that.
But that made you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was weird. As I said, it was at a rugby camp, and like
Sure.
And all the banter,
masculinity, machism.
Yeah,
The
thing it happened at a weird age. I was like 13, so I was already aware of what like sexual identity was and stuff, and I thought that I knew what it was because I'd had feelings of attraction towards women, and then that happens, and you're like, oh man, that
screws up everything in your mind. Like, it's like you have to rethink your identity yourself.
Yeah, and also at that point I was like, well, it must mean that I'm gay then, and that was like the worst thing that I could possibly be at that point in my mind, was like being gay would be so embarrassing because that was what like the punchline to every joke at school was like about being gay,
because that was what you were growing up with, the kind of culture that you were in touch with, and
that was
toxic masculinity that unfortunately still today reigns over our society. Talking about your encounters with women and men, so how do your dates react when you tell them that you are bisexual?
Normally I meet people through like Hinge, so and it's on there, so it's something that that comes up in the immediate like info box. If they are also that and they want to discuss it, then it's great, but it doesn't really come up as a conversation topic. But I also don't really date that often, so I don't know if it would come up more if I dated more men or something like that, because I'm not dating men really at the moment anyway. I don't know if responses from men would be different. I was always more anxious about being like, oh, I don't drink, by the way, than being like,
I think people get more sensitive about, I don't drink. Really? You don't? You okay?
Yeah. Well, we live in an alcoholic country. It's
Do we? I've never realised it. Listen, I think we've reached the right moment. The climax is absolutely right for in this chat now, and it's time for me to ask you the question of this I-DENTIT-IS the podcast. When did you accept your identity and finally stopped giving a fuck about what other people thought?
I think I feel like I have always been in spaces, but slightly off center with whatever's happening. I feel like my identity is always shifting in that respect. Now there's less swings, or less being like I'm this and I'm that, and more embracing the mystery of it, but recognizing that it will always be maturing. More light will be thrown on it, more shade will be thrown on it, different aspects of it will reveal itself. So that I feel comfortable in that, but there is still a long way for me to go, I think, especially in terms of like sexual relationships and things like that, or relationships that have a sexual element. There is still a lot of maturing for me to go through in that direction that goes beyond that gets to the point where I don't really I like, because I can pay lip service to the idea that I don't care what anyone thinks, but I still do. So But I also know that in 3 years I probably won't. So it's just like let it like.
So you're on your way to stop giving an fuck about what other people think and
Yeah, exactly. Like
just
I
lead your
think
life normally.
I feel like in like 3 or 4 years I'll probably be dating like more men or like AMAB people assigned male at birth than women and stuff. I just feel like that's what will happen. It might not, but like when I meet people, bisexual people who are like similar to me, or like I have a lot in common with, they're still dating people of all genders and things like that. But like, I don't know. I just think that feels like the kind of arc that I'm on, and just a bit earlier on in it. So there's still mature, kind of a journey to go on in that respect. But it's all, I'm like excited about it rather than scared, I think. Which I used
and that's what we need to be, maybe. Just so stop. Let's leave the fears out and just let's embrace the anxiety, the joy of discovering something new, and and getting on the way to accept ourselves for who we are, which is what I always encourage people to do. Listen, has your family been supportive? Like, how did they react when you came out as bisexual?
Oh yeah, they never really had to. Like I said,
right.
they came to a gig or something, like where I was already doing material about it. So I never actually had to have a conversation with them about it. But I've also never I had a boyfriend where like it's got to the point where I introduced them to my family. So
right.
But my youngest brother is gay, so he's done and also they're atheist.
He paved the way.
Yeah, he paved the way. And my mum's not atheist anymore, I don't think, but my dad is. So like they've not really got religious grounds to stand on when it comes to homophobia. Right. So they've always been,
open-minded.
It's always been a fairly open.
I know I'm bombarding you with questions, but one of the things you've been talking about a lot on your Instagram stories is your therapist. We all love your therapist now. Let me start with this question because there's something you've always said, and I'm going to give the background of this question in a couple of seconds. Do you enjoy being bisexual? Why am I saying this? Am I asking you this? Because you said something very interesting in one of your stories. If I dated a guy, I'd have to overcome decades of internalized homophobia. And if I dated a woman, I'd constantly be worried that I'd be using her to delay facing the reality that I've just completely been gay the whole time. How do you commend this? Because it's very interesting for me.
Yeah, you think when you try and put bisexual thought cycles in words, that it kind of betrays itself as just as a very cyclical thing that just constantly goes. That is like the bisexual internal monologue, and it like I think people experience because you're constantly.
I've experienced that. I mean, I can recognize myself in what you've said.
And
this monologue. I mean, when I was a teenager, I completely thought I was bisexual. I had to come to a certain stage where I had to stop giving a fuck about what other people thought, and then say, you know what? Let me try to be myself and see what happens. And then I married a man.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
I'm completely happy.
Yeah, exactly. Like that it's so weird because you're constantly worried about, like, there's just a constant overthinking because you're worried about how bisexual are you being, and are you being bisexual enough in your dating practices and stuff. And it's like, it's difficult. I feel like I don't know how much of that is social and how much of that is just ingrained in the condition of difference. But then I guess then it comes back to the fact that, like, you probably wouldn't worry about it if there wasn't so much kind of pressure on.
I think it's still a bit, these belong still to the society we live in, and it's a little bit their fault if a fault has to be found. But on the other side, I also think that as a human being, it's absolutely normal to have thoughts about yourself and your identity and how you feel. So yeah, I mean, it's just something that will have to be accepted and internalized or digested with time. And what I think is, we don't have to feel the pressure of it. We have to welcome the feeling without welcoming the pressure. Just leave the pressure out. Let's welcome the feeling. Let's digest it. Think about that, and we'll all get to to where we want to, and where nature has destined us to go. Right. So, okay, too many serious moments. Let's say so.
No, that was great.
Let's have the confessions in the chat room moment begin.
Let's get kinky and open. I like this moment because it's the moment where everything happens and things get lighter and funnier. Sam, what is that a guy or a girl has to do to turn you on?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably a feeling of mutual respect.
Wow.
Oh, that's so mental.
Yeah, I would like. I just don't think. I think that. I think that has to be there for the foundation of anything.
Mutual respect, and we like it. It's very mental and sexual.
Yeah,
at the same time.
It's just a disgustingly Christian answer.
No, it's your answer, it's your honest answer, and we just welcome that.
I just can't
Now,
I don't really use like sex as play is just not really something I've ever done. I just need it's like normally just an extension of.
You're such a good chap, really.
Yeah,
a man to be married. Really,
I had too good a childhood to be any other way, I think.
Sorry, so your favorite sex practice with a guy?
Yeah, my favorite sex practice is the same with anyone of any gender, and that is a stolen mutual glance at one another on public transport before we leave and never talk to each other again. There is such tension, especially on the tube because it's subterranean. If you have eye contact with someone on there and like it's like I'm not talking about staring or doing anything weird, but like when you just have that flash of eye contact with someone where you know that you're mutually thinking about a life together, and despite the fact that you're never going to see each other again.
True.
I think that is the most sexually electric thing that any two people or group of people, because sometimes there's a whole. Especially because after like 11 p.m, it's like only gay people are on the tube.
Yeah, it's an orgy of glances of eyes, basically.
Yeah, but not in a staring way. It's just in a
it just happens in the frame of a second. Like what? I'm thinking about the same. Yes,
exactly. And you only realize it's like only afterwards, and then you get off the tube, and it's like walking out of a sauna. Or something.
That was the man of my life. We'll never know that. I could already seen myself with all his children and all his family going to his family for Christmas and having to bear his fat mother. But okay.
Subterranean has always been a space where we kind of escape the shackles of mortal life within our own bodies, and I think that it is like a very rich fantasy space. A very strangely sexually charged place.
Oh gosh, and what if during the act of pleasing each other's bodies and souls, because we please our souls, bodies, of course we do, you'd be asked,
lick my feet.
What would you do?
I'd probably ask why, and then I'd probably really ruin the moment, because I think you have to just go with it, and I'd probably want to know why, because I always think with like if someone said that to me, I would be like, okay, I do, because I've been called a good boy in bed by everyone I've ever slept with, and I don't ask them to do that, so I can imagine that someone might misinterpret that energy for being someone that would want to do that. And like look in long-term relationships you do like anything goes eventually, but if it was on like a first or second time, I'd be like, what the heck, probably put their shoes on for them and tell them to go, or just leave myself. And
the confessions in a chat room moment is officially over.
Let's get back to be serious just for a couple of moments before we get to the end of this episode. And if you listeners haven't already done so, please follow Sam Williams on social media, TikTok and Instagram by, just typing in Sam Williams Comedy. So what is the worst comments you've ever received online?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would have had a more concrete answer for this when they still affected me, but like once you get enough, they kind of just wash over you.
We got to the end of the episode, and I really want to thank you for being so open about yourself, your identity, and for having shared with us your story.
Thank you so much for having me, Rafa.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And always remember, you that are listening to these podcasts, remember, you are perfect the way you are. So please, 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 be unique, be yourself, don't give a fuck.
Absolutely.
I'll see you soon with the next episode. Thank you so much and bye now. And remember, you are perfect the way you are, so please, be unique, be yourself, don't give a fuck.